Hello all, my name is Richard and today I am going to discuss with you a pilot study I carried out on the relevance of Scottish independence in the international news agenda. Specifically, I focused on the announcement of the Edinburgh Agreement. So, first off, I would like to apologise for not being there with you today. I really wanted to be there, but unfortunately, life sometimes dictates otherwise, and I am just happy to be able to present to you through the means of the internet. So let's get right into it. So the agenda for this presentation is an overview of Scottish independence for those of you, which I'm sure there is many who do not know about it. The 2012 Edinburgh Agreement. Why is this so significant? The current UK-Scotland status quo, the focus of this research, the research question of course, the sample I used, my results, and a little bit of time for discussion afterwards. So what is Scottish independence? Essentially it is the belief that Scotland should be a separate country from the rest of the United Kingdom. This isn't anything new. It's been around since the beginning of the United Kingdom, really, since 3 centuries ago. There have been similar movements in Ireland, Wales, England. There's a town in Cornwall in England which believes it should be independent from England and independent from the UK because it has such a distinct identity. And a common misconception among many people is that Scots were took over by England by force. If you've seen Bravehearts, you may believe that. However, they weren't. Scotland actually entered willingly into a partnership with England to create the United Kingdom in the 1707 Act of Union. This was largely due to Scotland being in a very poor economical situation after trying to build a colony overseas, but that isn't the focus of this research and we won't get into it today. So the Scottish Nationalist Party is the SNP and they are the current government in Scotland. They are the current majority administration in Scotland and they are the main proponents of Scottish independence. Their leader is Mr Alex Salmond, who is the First Minister of Scotland, and they came to international attention in October 2012. This was the announcement that Scotland would have a referendum on its future as part of the UK. Now this referendum is going to be held on September 18th, 2014, and Scots will be asked, do you think Scotland should be an independent country? With a simple yes or no in a tick box. So the Edinburgh Agreement outlines a legal basis for the referendum of Scottish independence. In the photo you will see Alex Salmond, the fellow on your left, smiling, and David Cameron looking a little bit confused there on your right. Mr Salmond and Mr Cameron are holding documents which contain the Edinburgh Agreement. And this photo is actually from the Scottish Government's official Flickr page, and it's been labelled for non-commercial reuse. So anyway, now that the copyright's out of the way, This agreement was signed on October 15th, 2012, and it gained international media attention and put Scotland and Scottish independence in the global spotlight like never before. So just a bit of background on Scotland. It has its own parliament, its own elected multi-party democracy. The parliament's name is Holyrood. It was established in 1999 through a process of devolved power devolution, as we call it in the UK, or essentially constitutional reform. The Scottish Parliament takes care of all matters relating to Scotland except defence, foreign affairs, some taxation, and several other items. This is slightly similar to Hong Kong and China's relationship. The government elected in Scotland for the past two elections has been the Scottish Nationalist Party, and their main belief is that Scotland should separate from the UK and become an independent country. So the focus of my small study was the international relevance of Scottish independence. The content analysis examines the amount of international coverage of the news of the Edinburgh Agreement in English language news sources in countries from the IMF's top 20 economies. Britain is in this list, but for the purposes of this research it won't be considered because currently Scotland and the UK are still the same country. And this is important because Scotland as a new country would likely have diplomatic and economic relations with these countries and would rely on them a lot. So knowledge of Scotland's situation around the world is really important for what might be a new Scottish state. So this study is very simple, very small. It is a word count of news and content items attributed to the announcement of the Edinburgh Agreement on the day of and the day after it was announced in October 2012. And my research question for this pilot study was, is the announcement of the Edinburgh Agreement considered to be newsworthy and thereby relevant by news sources in the world's leading economies? And here is a look at my sample. In the USA we have CNN, in China we have Xinhua, India Today, Japan Today, Germany, Der Spiegel, Russia, RT, Brazil, Real Times, France, 24, in Mexico the News, in Italy, Agenzia Giornalistica Italia, South Korea, The Chosen Ilbo, Canada, Toronto Star, Spain, El País, Indonesia, Jakarta Post, in Turkey, Today's Zaman, in Australia, ABC News, Iran, Press TV, Saudi Arabia, Saudi Gazette, and in Taiwan, the Taipei Times. And here are the results. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk through all of them, but the kind of most significant ones are shown on the next page. Now, I don't know if you can see it, but Iran, Germany, and Australia featured the most amount of works, but Canada, Iran, and China featured the most amount of content items. So let's go into it. So the most amount of works was covered in Germany, and nearly 1,000 there by Der Spiegel. Australia, CNN, Russia, India, nearly every economy attributed some news to the announcement of the Edinburgh Agreement. Brazil didn't, Mexico didn't, Italy unfortunately did not, Spain couldn't find anything in El País, and there was nothing also in Indonesia. So, oh sorry, that's a mistake, there was in Japan and in Indonesia there was 2 AFP items which I found on their websites. However, they were removed with just the headline intact, so I have coded them to include one item but an unknown amount of words. So the countries which covered it with the most amount of items were China, Canada and Iran. Second was CNN and India, and then the rest just featured one, while Brazil, Mexico and Italy featured no news. Now, this study is really small scale and of too narrow focus to purely make any real comment on the significance of Scotland for our countries. But what it does demonstrate is that news of a potentially independent Scotland is deemed newsworthy in the world's leading economies. In most of the world's leading economies, and is thereby relevant international news, receiving coverage across the globe. So for future inquiries, I hope this pilot study can act as a basis for further investigation into the relevance in Scotland and separatism in the international news agenda. Again, it would require a much larger study and much bigger timescale than me as a graduate student can currently afford, but I am aware that this pilot study is simple and small, and also perhaps a little too focused in its research means, but this was actually my first pilot study. I was told it was significant and I decided to follow it up, and I'm currently following this up. I'd like to take time to thank you for your time and paying attention to my research and presentation. Have a great day.